Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we are just 11 days away from the midterm elections. They will be taking place on November 8th. Today is October 28th. We are getting closer and closer to the midterms, which means we have early vote data. We've looked into it a little bit here and there on this channel, bits and pieces. But now, as we get closer to the election, we have a lot more early vote data out of a lot of key states, and it's looking very good for Republicans in a lot of them. Again, I really encourage people not to look too much into states early voting that do not register by party because they tend not to be super accurate on target smart when you analyze them by modeled party. Therefore, I encourage people to look into states that do track party registration because then we can see who exactly is voting. And right now in the state of Florida, in the early vote and the mail-in vote, which again, these are utilized more so by Democrats than the election day votes that we will see because people will vote early. They tend to vote Democrat on election day. People tend to be voting a little bit more Republican, and partially this is due to 2020. This is due to COVID. Republicans probably will be voting less proportionately early compared to 2020 as well, as this becomes more of an increasing polarizing issue. But either way, as we can see it right here, right now in the state of Florida, Democrats and Republicans are virtually tied in the early vote, and that is the early vote. And as we get closer to election day, it's very possible Republicans are going to take the lead as a lot more in-person early voting will be taking place. And then on election day, Republicans are going to completely swamp the Democrats, and you will see DeSantis and Rubio win by more than 10 points. And we're going to be analyzing some other states as well that do this as well, that track by party and that have early vote data. But either way, it's looking very good across the board for Republicans. But like I said, we are going to be comparing this mainly to 2020 because before 2020 and 2018 and before that, we did see a lot more Republicans choose to vote absentee, to vote early, and that all changed because of the 2020 election. You have Trump and his supporters attacking the early and the mail-in vote system. And that causes more Republicans now than ever to turn up on election day to vote. So we're going to cover this, but I have to tell you guys very quickly about redeaglepolitics.com. Make sure you guys sign up. It is just 16 cents a day or $5 a month. That's one coffee per month. You get all of my exclusive videos, the content that does not exactly make it onto the main channel. Did a video the other day on New Hampshire. I'll be dropping several videos on the website exclusively before the election as well. Also, I have my Discord server there. You can join up. We also have exclusive articles there about the 2022 midterms as well. So make sure you guys sign up. The link is in the description as well as the pinned comment down below. But Florida, very, very big time stuff out of the state of Florida. And we could look at it by county too, because this is arguably more impressive. You want to look at it by certain counties, because some counties report a little bit slower than others. But counties that have been reporting pretty quickly, Miami-Dade, for example, Republicans and Democrats in Miami-Dade neck and neck. Compare this to 2020, where Democrats had a 16-point lead in the early and mail-in vote in Miami-Dade. That was to be expected, but even so, Republicans appeared to be, poised to do better in Miami-Dade County than in years past, or compared to how you would expect it because of shifts in 2020 that we saw in terms of different groups voting by mail versus voting in person. But even so, with those changes, Republicans trail by just 5% in Miami-Dade County in the early vote. Last time they trailed by, what did we say, 17% or so, and they only lost the county by 7%. So we're seeing massive shifts. You're probably going to see Miami-Dade County flip this cycle, and you're seeing similar shifts across the board in a lot of counties. We could go to Hillsborough County, that is where Tampa is. This is a county that has arguably moved away from Republicans over the past, 15 years or so, but you could look at Hillsborough County here. We could show the shift here, and it's a 5-point game in Hillsborough County. And again, last time the county, believe it or not, moved to the right. in 20, or it didn't really move much at all in 2020 at the presidential level. This is a county that Rubio won in 2016 that also went for Clinton. And you saw the shift there. Again, that was 17 or 18 points in the early vote. That is now just a 5-point lead. It's very possible that you are going to see Hillsborough County flip Republican. And this is true. And we talk about party registration in Florida. This is a red state now. Republicans overtook Democrats in party registration earlier in the year. You look at the redistricting maps that you're seeing out of Florida, Republicans are going to win every single swing seat that there truly is, and they're going to end up with what, like 20 seats in the delegation in Florida. It's going to be an abysmal showing for Democrats, and Republicans are going to do very well. But it's not even just the state of Florida that we see this in. I want to go to the state of Arizona, because this is another very competitive swing state. And you look at what we saw in terms of the early vote in the 2020 election. You saw Democrats win the early vote by 10 percentage points. They were leading it by 10 percentage points 11 days away from the election. You want to look at the final early and mail there. Republicans were able to gain a little bit more by the end of it, which means that they will likely gain a little bit more by the end of it as well this time. But either way, 11 days out of the election here, you are seeing Democrats leading by around 10. Now you are seeing them lead by 4. That is a 6-point shift between 2020 and 2022. That is huge, and you're seeing that there. And we could go down to other states as well that are relatively competitive, that do tend to track by party. We could look at the state of Nevada, and we've talked about this a little bit here, but Democrats led the early vote 11 days out of the election by close to 10 percentage points in 2020, a little bit over 9, and then that lead has been cut significantly. That lead has been cut to just 5.5 points. That's enough to, take that shift home. And you want to look at the final early mail totals. Republicans typically do better the closer you get towards the election. So we're probably going to see a surge for Republicans in the final week. We'll continue to monitor that, but that's also very big. So we could go down to the state of Pennsylvania, and this one, there are a little bit more question marks here. The margin is roughly about the same as it was during the 2020 election, and this is true. Although if you look at the terms of raw turnout and what voters are actually showing up, you have this at approximately about half of the early vote total that was showing for 2020. So you are going to anticipate a very big election day surge in turnout, which would benefit Dr. Oz. It would benefit Doug Mastriano there. You're looking at a lot of the polls that we've seen as well. And Dr. Oz has led 3 straight polls after not even leading a single poll the entire cycle. Now he has led 3 consecutive polls after the debate by 3 percentage points or more. You're probably going to see more and more ballots submitted for the Republicans. And again, a lot of this is just mail-in voting. There's no in-person early voting in Pennsylvania. This is another thing that people need to understand and need to take into consideration, is that a lot of the vote that you will see on election day is going to be Republican, because there's no in-person early voting the way that there is in Florida or the way that there is in some of these other states like Texas, even though Texas doesn't register by party. So it's going to be interesting to see what the end result truly is, but there's no in-person early voting. So if there is big turnout on election day for Republicans, as a lot of people are anticipating, you will see Democrats get overwhelmed and swamped there in the state of Pennsylvania. Furthermore, we also could take a look at North Carolina, which is another state that is not really expected to be that competitive, just like Florida. But even so, you see Republicans doing much better there in 2022, even compared to 2020. You look at this, and a lot of these votes are mail-in votes as well. That's another thing to take into consideration. You're probably going to see less Republicans voting early than you saw in 2020. You're going to see less of them voting by mail overall compared to the overall percentage of Republicans that are voting. A lot more of them will turn out on election day, and that is going to really benefit them in the grand scheme of things. But even so, looking at this, Democrats lead in the early vote in North Carolina by just around 8 percentage points, although there are a lot of independents We don't know exactly which way those voters are going to go. There's a higher share of unaffiliated voters in the state of North Carolina than there have been in a lot of these other states. But either way, Republicans appear to be in a better shape than they were in 2020. It just depends on the final turnout that we are going to see on Election Day. It's important to note that you have to look at the total turnout as well, because you look at this and you see just a third of the voters that voted early in 2020 are voting early in 2022. It just depends what percentage of the in-person vote do we see. And if we see a higher percentage of that compared to 2020 and compared to the early vote percentage, then we probably are going to see a massive red wave in a lot of these states here. Of course, there are states that don't register by party. You look at states such as Georgia, so you can't exactly go off of this data for the state of Georgia. But even so, we'll have to really wait and see. Republicans are surging in a lot of polls in these states. But either way, the early vote data that we do have, it's looking very, very good for Republicans overall. And this is true. And we will still see what happens. There's 11 days between now and Election Day. And then we will see what happens on Election Day. On election night, I will be streaming, but a lot of voters are going to turn out and vote on Election Day. But even so, from what we've seen so far, Republicans appear to be doing better 11 days out of the election in most instances in swing states. And a lot of Republicans are also going to be voting on Election Day, and turnout overall in terms of the early vote has dipped significantly from 2020. We know that it is a midterm year. We know that the overall turnout will be lower, but still that could be encouraging for Republicans given the fact that a lot of them will be showing up to vote on Election Day, and we will go from there. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.